"Freeze! You are under arrest for illegal flower planting!" The words hit the air like gunfire. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating.
Where is it, Tracy?
My wife, Tracy,
Hide it from us.
knelt in the front yard, dirt-stained gloves still on, staring at three strangers in mismatched tactical vests, pointing badges like weapons. One, a woman with hard eyes and a white polo tucked tightly into khakis, shouted orders like she was running a SWAT raid. "Hands where I can see them! Step away from the marigolds!" My coffee cup hit the porch rail, spilling black streaks down the wood as I bolted outside. The autumn sun flashed across the silver of handcuffs. They were cuffing her for planting flowers. The absurdity hit like cold water, but it did not matter. Live stream cameras were rolling. Neighbors gathered with phones out, cheering as if this was justice. That was the moment I realized our peaceful mountain weekend had turned into a war zone. I had spent 18 years in federal law enforcement. I chased fugitives through street, Louis alleys, served warrants in meth houses where every step could be a tripwire, and stared down men who thought shotguns were negotiation tools. Nothing prepared me for this. Suburban vigilantes storming my property over yellow marigolds was not in my training. They did not know who they were dealing with. Not yet. In 90 minutes, this would become America's most viral neighborhood meltdown. They would learn the man they humiliated on camera was not a retiree with too much time. I was a U.S. Marshal, and I was done playing nice. But before hell broke loose, before badges became weapons and truth turned theater, there was a morning. A perfect, peaceful morning in the Colorado mountains. We had driven to the cabin the night before, a small log place an hour outside Denver. Tracy loved it there. The quiet, the pine smell, the stars close enough to touch. I teased her as she loaded the car with gardening tools. You know, most people go to the mountains to relax, not start landscaping projects. She smiled, that gentle teacher's smile that diffused my sarcasm. You handle fugitives, I handle flower beds. Balance. That was Tracy. A third-grade teacher who saw potential in everything, especially neglected corners of the world. She could look at bare dirt and imagine life blooming. The morning started crisp and cold, air sharp enough to wake you without caffeine. I brewed coffee anyway, watching from the kitchen window as Tracy crouched in her old college sweatshirt, jeans faded from years of wear, humming while digging shallow holes for marigolds. It was peaceful in a way city life never allowed. No sirens, no phones, just her, the garden, and the mountain wind slipping through pines. Then I noticed movement across the street. A woman stood rigid on her porch, holding binoculars, watching Tracy. Not casually, this was surveillance. She had a clipboard, scribbling notes every few minutes, like documenting a crime that did not exist. I frowned. Who does surveillance at 8 a.m. over flowers? Tracy waved to her, friendly as always. The woman did not wave back. She lowered the binoculars, turned, and disappeared inside. Josh, Tracy called through the open window. That lady keeps staring at me. It is creepy. Just ignore her, I said, stepping out with my coffee. Some people need hobbies. That was my first mistake. I should have trusted Tracy's instincts. She deals with difficult parents and overbearing administrators for a living. She can read crazy like radar. To me, it was just neighborhood drama, a nosy woman with too much time and no boundaries. I brushed it off. I was wrong. That woman was not just nosy. She was planning something. Her name, I later learned, was Laura Thompson. She had lived in that neighborhood for 15 years. Widowed, retired substitute teacher, rule enforcer, she called herself. She had no official title, but had something more dangerous, a purpose built from grief. I did not know that yet. All I knew was my wife was planting flowers, and across the street stood a woman watching every move like it was a criminal case file. When Tracy came inside for more soil, she laughed it off. Maybe she is just bored. Or starting a neighborhood watch, I joked. Marigold division. She rolled her eyes and kissed my cheek. Do not start. Let me have this weekend. And I did. I let her go back outside, knee-deep in happiness. while I sipped coffee, unaware a plan was in motion across the street. At 10:17 a.m., that plan walked across our yard wearing a smile and a badge. Laura Thompson was flanked by two strangers, an older woman in a cheap security uniform and a younger guy trying too hard to look official. Laura carried a camera, a measuring tape, and a clipboard thick with papers. She did not knock. She started snapping photos of the flowers, narrating like a true crime podcast host. Non-approved species planted without Architectural Review Committee consent, she muttered, her voice calm, practiced. Tracy looked up, dirt on her hands. Excuse me? Laura did not answer. She crouched closer, snapping pictures. Click, click, click. I stepped outside, halfway between laughing and furious. Ma'am, what is this about? Laura straightened, eyes full of authority she did not possess. Article 47B of the Community Standards, she said, waving a laminated paper like it was the Constitution. All landscaping modifications must be approved by the Architectural Review Committee. These flowers violate subsection 3, non-native species. Her tone was robotic, memorized. The woman beside her nodded solemnly. The young man scribbled notes like an intern. Tracy stood, trying to reason. There is no HOA here. We checked before buying. This is unincorporated county land. Laura's expression did not change. Ignorance of community standards is not a defense. She took 3 more photos, of Tracy, of me, of our house. Each click sounded like a countdown. Then came the line that should have stopped me cold. You have 2 hours to remove these unauthorized plantings, Laura said, or I will be forced to initiate enforcement action. I laughed. I could not help it. Enforcement action? What is this, a gardening coup? Laura's lips tightened. You think this is funny? People like you think rules are optional. That is how communities fall apart. Tracy put a hand on my arm. Josh, just leave it. But I was done humoring her. Look, lady, if you think you have legal authority, show me proof. Otherwise, step off my property. Laura's eyes gleamed. The paperwork is on its way, she said, turning to Tracy. You do not have to protect him anymore. Help is coming. That was when I realized this was not about flowers. Something behind her eyes was broken, obsessed. She looked at Tracy not with hate, but with pity, like she thought my wife was a hostage. As Laura walked away, calling someone named Jim on her phone, I caught a sentence that made my neck hairs stand. She looks just like Emma. I cannot let it happen again. Emma. I did not know who that was. But the way she said it, quiet and shaking, sent a chill down my spine. I should have acted then. Called the county. Reported her. But I did not. I thought it was just paranoia, hers, not mine. That was my second mistake. An hour later, I stood in my yard watching Laura return with 3 fake badges, a camera crew, and a real deputy, convinced my wife needed rescuing from me. But at that moment, I was still sipping coffee, pretending I could logic my way out of crazy. The clock was ticking. Across the street, Laura was preparing for war. And she thought she was saving the world, one marigold at a time. The first real crack in that morning came at 10:17 a.m. I checked my watch before the nightmare walked across our yard. Laura Thompson was back, not alone. She had upgraded from binoculars to a tactical fantasy. Clipboard, bright yellow measuring tape, DSLR camera with a telephoto lens. Behind her were 2 recruits, a middle-aged woman in an ill-fitting security uniform and a young man looking like a mall cop awaiting his big break. They crossed the street like serving a warrant. My warrant. Excuse me, Laura said, balancing politeness and command like she practiced it in a mirror. We need to document these violations for the community report. Tracy froze. Violations? Laura crouched by the marigolds, snapping photos from every angle. Non-approved plantings, unregistered modifications, possible soil disruption of community landscape integrity, she murmured, narrating for her phone camera. Each shutter click hit like a slap. I stepped outside, mug in hand, trying to stay calm. Ma'am, you cannot walk on our property taking pictures. What are you doing? Laura looked up with pity and superiority. Sir, Article 47B of the Community Standards states all landscaping modifications must be approved by the Architectural Review Committee. She held up a laminated sheet like Holy Scripture. These flowers violate subsection 3, non-native unregistered species in visible yard zones. Her assistants nodded in solemn agreement, as if this was the Supreme Court, not a Saturday morning in the mountains. Tracy wiped her hands on her jeans. We were not told about any HOA when we bought this place. We are not inside a community boundary. This is unincorporated county land. Laura took another photo, unfazed. Ignorance of the law is not a defense. I should have stopped her there, demanded proof. Instead, curiosity turned to disbelief. Who are you? I asked. She smiled, tight, rehearsed, smug. I am the Neighborhood Standards Coordinator. We maintain order around here. Never heard of that position. You would not have, she said. Most people who follow the rules never do. That line should have told me everything. The young man stepped forward, extending a hand. Rob Williams, Community Security Supervisor, he said, flashing an ID that looked printed at a copy shop. We are here to support Mrs. Thompson in enforcing compliance, the older woman added softly. Margaret. Documentation and procedural review. The titles, tone, props, it was theater. Neighborhood cosplay dressed as law. Look, I said, forcing a laugh. You cannot enforce rules that do not exist. There is no HOA here. Rob's face tightened. Sir, that is a common misconception. The community standards apply within the designated area. What designated area? Laura ignored the question, already on her phone. Jim, it is happening, she said. Bring the documentation and backup. Yes, she is with him. I think it is worse than we thought. She hung up and gave me a look, like she confirmed a conspiracy. I hoped it would not come to this, she said, but some people refuse to follow rules until forced. Tracy's brow furrowed. Forced to what? Take care of our own yard? Laura smiled sadly. Honey, you do not have to protect him anymore. Tracy blinked, confused. Protect him? From what? Laura turned away, camera swinging from her neck. You will see soon enough. The young man circled our truck, jotting notes. The older woman knelt by the marigolds, measuring plant distances. It was surreal, like watching actors improvise a police procedural with no script. Tracy whispered, Josh, maybe we should take the flowers out to avoid trouble. No, I said. If I give in to nonsense once, it never ends. I was not trying to be stubborn. I could not believe someone could be this delusional. I had faced cartel lieutenants who made more sense. Laura's tone shifted from procedural to prophetic. You think this is a joke, she said, stepping closer. But this is not about flowers. It is about control. When people like you ignore rules, good people get hurt. She was not talking to me anymore. She was talking to a ghost behind my shoulder. Laura, I said, you are trespassing. Leave now before I call the sheriff. Go ahead, she said quietly. He is on his way. For the first time, her hands trembled. Not from fear, from conviction. When they left our yard, Tracy exhaled, trying to laugh it off. That woman is insane. Yeah, I muttered, watching Laura pace her porch, phone to her ear, taking notes. But the kind of insane that thinks it is righteous. That is the dangerous kind. For a few minutes, silence returned. The wind through the aspens, the buzz of distant insects. Then, faintly, I heard Laura's voice, carried across the street like a prayer twisted by obsession. She looks just like Emma. I will not let it happen again. I did not know who Emma was. But I knew Laura had snapped long before this morning. Now she had made us her new project. At 11 a.m., the situation went from absurd to official looking. A white SUV with magnetic community enforcement decals rolled up. Rob stepped out, now wearing aviators and a radio mic clipped to his shoulder. Margaret carried a stack of paperwork. Then came the sound that turned my stomach. A real police siren, blipping once, cutting through the mountain air. A county sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind the SUV. "Oh God," Tracy whispered. She called the cops. I squeezed her hand. "It is fine. Once they see there is no real HOA, they will shut this down. I was wrong again." Deputy Jim Patterson radiated calm authority. Mid-50s, solid build, weathered face. The kind of cop you instinctively trust. He introduced himself, polite but firm. "Ma'am, sir, we received a report of domestic intimidation involving a federal employee." My brain stopped. "Come again?" He held up his tablet. "Mrs. Thompson provided evidence that you, Mr. Mitchell, used your federal position to intimidate residents and threaten your wife." "What?" Tracy gasped. "That is insane!" Patterson frowned. She supplied video evidence. He pressed play. The screen showed footage from Laura's doorbell camera. I watched myself talking to her from yesterday, but the video was edited. My voice was deepened, aggressive. The audio distorted to sound like shouting. Laura trembled, pleading. It looked bad. "That is doctored," I said immediately. "That is not what happened." "Sir, I will need you to lower your voice," Patterson warned. "She is lying," Tracy said. "That video is fake." Laura appeared beside the deputy like she had been waiting for her cue. Perfect posture, crisp blouse, phone out like a mirror. "I am live streaming for transparency," she said to her camera. "Everyone deserves to see how federal agents treat civilians." The comment counter on her screen ticked upward. Tens. Hundreds. "Josh," Tracy whispered, gripping my arm. "What is she doing?" "She is staging it," I said, voice low. "This is a performance." Laura's phone was feeding to social media. Within minutes, hundreds of strangers would watch, convinced they saw a corrupt agent confronted by a brave woman defending her neighborhood. Patterson looked torn. The uniform made him cautious, but Laura's manipulation made him curious. "Sir," he said, "if you are indeed federal law enforcement, I will need to verify credentials. You think I am lying?" "I think this is getting complicated." That was the understatement of the year. As Patterson examined my badge, Laura turned the camera to Tracy. "It is okay, honey," she said sweetly. "You do not have to protect him anymore." Tracy blinked, horrified. "Protect me? From him? He is my husband!" Laura's voice cracked with rehearsed compassion. "Abused women often defend their attackers. It is called trauma bonding." That line hit harder than any bullet. I stepped forward, barely restraining my anger. "Enough. You are done manipulating my wife." "Sir," Patterson warned, "step back." Laura smiled. "See? This is exactly what I have been saying." In that instant, the script flipped. I was not a husband anymore. I was the villain of her movie. Tracy was not a woman planting flowers. She was the hostage being rescued. Laura was the savior of suburbia, streaming live. She turned to her camera, voice trembling just enough to sound human. "If anything happens to me today, you all know who is responsible." That line sealed it. Within the hour, hashtags appeared, screenshots spread, and strangers decided they knew our story. They did not. Not yet. But they were about to. The real game changer came 43 minutes later. A real patrol car pulled up in front of our cabin. No fake badges. No HOA cosplay. A county sheriff's cruiser, lights flashing once like a warning flare, then cutting out. Radio chatter bled into the mountain air. Tracy's fingers tightened around my arm. "Josh, why is there a cop here?" "What did she tell them?" I stared at Laura's porch. She was waiting for this moment, calm, ready, rehearsed. The deputy stepped out, adjusting his belt, reading from his tablet as he approached. Behind him, Laura filmed every step. Her phone was live, audience counterclimbing like a thermometer in a fire. "Mr. Mitchell," the deputy said, polite but cautious, "I am Deputy Jim Patterson. We received a report of domestic intimidation involving a federal employee. For a second, I thought I misheard." "Domestic what?" He kept his tone measured. "The complainant, Mrs. Laura Thompson, alleges ongoing threats and coercion against your spouse, Mrs. Tracy Mitchell." She provided documentation, videos, and witness statements. Tracy's voice broke through the shock. "That is ridiculous! I have never, ma'am," he said gently. "You do not need to defend him." I felt my pulse pound in my throat. This was spiraling faster than I could speak. Laura stepped forward, all empathy and false sorrow. "Officer, I could not watch it happen anymore. She is terrified of him." Tracy blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Do not be afraid," Laura said softly, eyes glistening. "You are safe now." Her live stream viewers flooded the chat. "She is so brave. Rescue her. Feds always cover for each other." I heard the pinging notifications echo through the quiet mountain air like digital applause for madness. Patterson cleared his throat. "Sir, can I see your identification?" I handed him my badge. "United States Marshals Service." He studied it, frowned slightly, nodded. "That checks out, but your position does not exempt you from community standards or the law." I almost laughed. "You think this is about community standards?" He held up his tablet. "I think this is about intimidation." I saw the footage, and there it was, the edited footage. He showed me a video circulating online for hours. I stood in our driveway, talking to Laura from yesterday. But in this version, my tone was sharp, threatening. Laura's voice trembled. Captions read, "Federal agent threatens elderly woman for enforcing community rules." It was genius, in a horrifying way. A clean narrative. No nuance, no context, just outrage. "Sir," Patterson said, "we take these accusations seriously." "Deputy," I said, controlling my voice, "that video is fake. She edited it. She is manipulating you." "Mr. Mitchell," he said carefully, "I am not here to judge. I am here to keep the peace." Laura turned the camera toward me. "See, he is trying to intimidate even law enforcement now." The crowd ate it up. Neighbors drifted out of their homes, phones raised, whispering. Mrs. Davis, from 2 doors down, shook her head like she could not believe she lived next to monsters. Tracy stood frozen. "Josh, this is not real. They cannot just..." "They can," I said, "because perception is reality now." Laura raised her voice, loud for her audience and the deputy. "He has done this before. Every time someone stands up to him, he uses his badge to silence them. But not this time. Not in my community." The comments on her screen scrolled fast. "Arrest him. Protect her. Film everything." And she was. Every breath, every twitch, every word. "Deputy Patterson," Laura said, turning to him like a director addressing her actor, "I think you should separate them, for her safety." Tracy took a step back. "What? No. You are not taking me anywhere." Patterson looked conflicted. "Ma'am, we just need to talk privately." "This is insane," I said, stepping forward. "She is manipulating you. This is a setup." Laura's voice dripped with pity. That is exactly what abusers say when they lose control. Something inside me snapped. Not rage, clarity. Cold, hard, procedural clarity. The kind that turns chaos into steps, noise into threat levels. "Deputy," I said, "you are about to be complicit in a crime if you let them detain her." He hesitated. Laura did not. "See, he is threatening an officer now." 2 more people appeared, Rob and Margaret, in their fake uniforms. They flanked Tracy, as if preparing to escort her. "Do not touch her," I said, voice dropping an octave. Margaret held up her phone, reading from a script. "Mrs. Tracy Mitchell, you are being placed in protective custody, pending investigation of domestic coercion and community endangerment." Tracy's eyes filled with tears. "Protective custody? I do not. What are you doing?" Laura turned to her live stream. "Justice for survivors starts now," she said. "Even if the system will not protect them, we will." Then came the sound that haunts me to this day. Click. Handcuffs locking around my wife's wrists. That sound cut through everything. Laura's narration, the crowd's murmurs, the rustle of wind through trees, gone. My mind hit mute on the world. Tracy's voice broke through, shaking. "Josh, help me! Tell them!" I moved instinctively, stepping forward, but Patterson's hand went to his holster. "Sir, back up." Rob read rights from a phone app, voice trembling. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used." He did not finish. He did not need to. I had seen enough. That is when training took over. I straightened, squared my shoulders, and let silence settle to shift the balance. Then, in a voice drilled into me over 18 years of federal service, I said, "United States Marshals Service." Everyone freeze. The air cracked. Every sound stopped. The crowd, the phones, Laura's voice. Patterson's hand dropped from his holster. Rob froze, mid-sentence. Margaret released Tracy's arm like she touched an electric fence. For the first time all morning, I saw confusion on Laura's face. Real confusion. "I am Supervisory Deputy Marshal Josh Mitchell, District Office, Colorado," I said, holding up my badge for every phone camera and live stream viewer to see. "What you are witnessing is the unlawful detention of a federal officer's spouse by civilians impersonating law enforcement." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh crap!" I turned to Rob. "Remove those handcuffs." "Now." He hesitated. I stepped forward. "Now, Mr. Williams, before I add kidnapping to your charges." Rob fumbled with the keys, unlocking the cuffs with shaking hands. Tracy stumbled into my arms, trembling. "Josh, it is okay," I whispered. "You are safe now." Laura's live stream was still rolling, camera shaking as she tried to recover her narrative. "You are all seeing this," she stammered. "Federal agent threatening innocent citizens. This is the corruption I have been talking about." But her tone changed. The certainty cracked. Comments on her screen divided, some cheering her, others questioning. "Wait, he is actually a marshal? Is this real? Did she fake this?" Patterson stepped forward, professionalism restored. "Sir," he said, "I will need to verify everything and file a report." "You will get your report," I said, "and they will get charges." I started recording with my phone, documenting everything. "For the record," I said aloud, "this is Supervisory Deputy Marshal Mitchell documenting federal offenses, including impersonation of an officer, unlawful detention, and conspiracy under color of law." Laura kept filming, her voice rising. "You cannot silence me! This is federal overreach! Everyone is watching!" "You are right," I said. "They are." Her eyes flickered. That sentence flipped her advantage. The cameras were no longer her weapon, they were evidence. Tracy leaned into me, voice low and shaking. "Josh, how did this happen?" I looked past the chaos to Laura's porch, where viewers watched through screens, judging, commenting, believing whatever version hit first. "This is not about flowers anymore," I said quietly. "It is about control." Laura screamed about corruption, her live stream glitching as she swung the phone toward me. The sound was static, comments pinging faster than truth could travel. But the moment was sealed. Every frame, every lie, every breath she took pretending to be a savior became evidence in a federal investigation. I guided Tracy inside, past the crowd, past flashing phone screens. Behind us, Patterson called for backup. Rob sat on the curb, head in hands. Margaret cried quietly. Laura kept talking into her camera, voice trembling, eyes wild. "This is not over," she whispered. "They will see. Emma will see. That name again. Emma. I did not know who she was. But I knew one thing. Whoever Emma had been, she was the ghost driving this, and the world was watching that ghost come to life through a woman who lost everything, except her obsession. The silence after my command was deafening. For several seconds, nobody moved. Even the wind through the aspens held its breath. Reality caught up. Patterson was on his radio, calling for county backup. Margaret stepped away from Tracy, eyes wide, realizing she might have committed a felony on camera. Rob was pale, his fake badge dangling awkwardly from his vest. Laura did not move. She was still recording, still live. The red circle glowed in her reflection like a heartbeat. "This," she said breathlessly, "is what tyranny looks like. A federal agent using his position to silence citizens. You are all witnessing it." Her voice trembled, not from fear, from conviction, the kind you cannot argue with, only document. Patterson glanced at me, uneasy. "Sir, I think we should all calm down and step inside." Calm down? He had watched a woman handcuff my wife on a lie. But I swallowed the anger. Training does not vanish, not even when your heart tries to break through your ribs. "Deputy," I said, keeping my tone measured, "we are past calm. These individuals impersonated officers, unlawfully detained my wife, and broadcast it to hundreds online. This is a federal matter now." He hesitated, then nodded. He knew I was right. But he also knew the fallout was too big to contain. Outside our cabin, the crowd doubled. Phones were raised, recording every move, every breath, every word. The world was not just watching, it was judging. I turned to Laura, still filming. "Laura Thompson," I said evenly, "you are under citizen's arrest for impersonating law enforcement, unlawful detention, and conspiracy under color of law." Rob dropped his clipboard like it burned him. "Wait, citizen's arrest?" "Yes," I said, "and before you panic, it is being recorded. By you." Laura looked uncertain. Her hands trembled, phone wobbling. "You cannot." "I can," I said, and I did. She blinked, stunned. Like the rules she recited, her whole life turned against her. She spent months building fake authority, only to be taken down by the real thing. Patterson raised a hand. "Sir, I need you to hold off. This situation is out of control. We will need to de-escalate before arrests." He was right. Arrests would not fix this. Not immediately. Not when half the country would have an opinion. Laura's live stream was still rolling. Her audience, thousands now, ate up every frame. "See?" she said, turning the camera on me. "Even the police are afraid of him. This is what federal corruption looks like." She did not understand her footage had sealed her fate. That night, the story broke online. Not as woman arrested for impersonating officers, but as federal agent threatens suburban mom over flower dispute. Someone clipped the video, just the moment I announced my title, framed for outrage. Within hours, hashtags like Flowergate, Federal Overreach, and Marigold Justice trended. Cable news debated whether I was a power-hungry marshal or a misunderstood husband. Commentators who could not find our county on a map became experts in rural power abuse. Tracy and I watched it unfold on my phone, in silence. Every post felt like a hit. Every lie felt heavier. The truth was out there, buried under noise, and I did not know if it would climb back up. By midnight, the live stream had been shared over 10,000 times. People dissected every frame, analyzing my expression like evidence of guilt. "Look how he steps forward," one post read. "That is aggression." Another said, "She is clearly terrified." Classic intimidation. No one mentioned the fake badges or my wife handcuffed for planting flowers. That did not fit the narrative. Tracy sat on the couch scrolling comments. I saw tears forming, but she did not let them fall. "Josh, people think you are a monster." "They do not know me," I said softly. "They just know a clip." She looked up, voice cracking. "Then make them know you." I nodded, but I knew it would not be simple. In the digital age, truth does not travel. It limps. I spent the next morning doing what I was trained to do. Document, preserve, prepare. I mirrored Laura's footage, marked timestamps, listed violations. Procedure kept me from losing my mind. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. Mitchell, my supervisor's voice, clipped and cold. "What is going on up there?" CNN called my office asking for comment about one of our marshals arresting a flower lady. "Sir, with respect, that is not what happened." "I do not care what happened," he snapped. "I care what it looks like." And there it was, the line that defines modern justice. Perception beats truth 9 times out of 10. By noon, I was suspended pending investigation. Not fired, just benched, but the message was clear. They had to protect the badge before me. Tracy tried to stay calm. It will blow over. Once the facts come out... Facts do not trend, I said. Then something changed. Bob Anderson, our next-door neighbor, knocked holding a laptop. "You are going to want to see this," he said. He filmed the whole thing from his porch. His footage showed everything. Rob slipping on fake patches, Laura coaching Margaret, even her whispering, "Start recording now." Thought this might help, Bob said. He had no idea how much it would. We uploaded the raw footage to a secure federal evidence drive. Within hours, it reached the sheriff's office. By day's end, Patterson called me. "Mitchell, you were right," he said. "Laura has been collecting fake HOA fees for over a year. No legal authority, no board, nothing. We found invoices, texts, fake letterheads. She is running a fraud ring." I exhaled for the first time in 36 hours. "And the live stream? Now evidence," he said. "Every word she said is being logged." Truth had a pulse again. Weak, but beating. Laura was not done. When her lies unraveled, she doubled down. That night, she went live again. "They are framing me," she told her audience, tears streaking her face. "Federal agents hacked my files. They planted evidence." Her voice broke just enough to sound genuine. Comments filled with sympathy. "We believe you, Laura. Stay strong. Expose them." It did not matter that the sheriff's office found proof of her scam. She had an audience, and an audience needs only feeling, not facts. I fought cartel bosses who knew they were evil. Laura believed she was righteous. That made her more dangerous. The next morning, she announced a federal overreach rally on social media. "No more silence," her post read. "Join me in standing up to tyranny." She had graphics, hashtags, a donation link. Within hours, hundreds of RSVPs poured in. Tracy showed me the post at breakfast. "She is turning her arrest into a movement." "Not a movement," I said. "A delusion." "But delusions with microphones can move mountains." I called Patterson. "You need to shut this down." "We cannot," he said. "First Amendment. As long as it is peaceful, she can rally." Peaceful. Right. Nothing about Laura had been peaceful since she spotted Tracy's marigolds. So we waited. While Laura built a stage, printed banners, called reporters, I built a case file thicker than a phone book. Luis Ortega, my old friend from Cyber Investigations, called late that night. "Got your back, brother. I am tracing her payment processors, emails, everything. She is cooked." "You think she knows she is done?" I asked. Luis laughed. "People like her? They do not stop until the spotlight burns out. Let it." He was right. I did not have to destroy her. She was setting the fire herself. All I had to do was ensure the world saw it in daylight. By Sunday morning, reporters lined the street. Laura stood at the center, microphone in hand, voice echoing through portable speakers. "They tried to silence me, but I am still here. This is not about flowers. It is about freedom." Behind her, banners fluttered. "Stop federal bullying. Defend community rights." But beside her was not an army. Just 40 confused neighbors and a few YouTube conspiracy vloggers with selfie sticks. Tracy and I watched from our porch. "She thinks she is going to win," Tracy whispered. "No," I said. "She has already lost. She just has not looked down yet." Because in the crowd stood Patterson, papers in hand. He walked to the microphone. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, loud for all to hear, "you are being served with a restraining order and multiple criminal complaints for fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, and unlawful detention." Laura blinked, stunned. "What? This rally," he continued, "is an active crime scene." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She tried to turn it into theater again. "You see?" she cried. "They are silencing me now!" But her voice cracked, and her audience was not buying it. Because Bob Anderson connected his laptop to a projector, playing her fake videos for all to see. The first file title flashed, HOA Roleplay V3 Final MP4. The crowd went silent. Then murmurs started. Role play? What? She faked it? Laura froze. That is not. That has been tampered with. Margaret stood from the front row, voice trembling. Laura told us it was real. She lied to us all. Her empire of lies collapsed. Her live viewers watched in real time, her face contorting between rage and disbelief as her followers abandoned her. It was over. But I was not smiling, because the way she whispered Emma still haunted me. There was something deeper, tragic, behind her madness. When the rally broke up, the sheriff's department collected her devices, files, notes, and in that chaos, they found the name again. Emma Thompson, 19 years old, killed in a car accident 2 years earlier. The other driver had been texting, barely slowed before impact. Laura's daughter. Suddenly, every piece fit. The obsession with rules. The paranoia. The war against reckless people. In her broken mind, I was not Josh Mitchell. I was the man who killed her daughter, reborn through projection and grief. That revelation did not erase what she did, but it changed how I saw it. Laura had not set out to commit crimes. She set out to control a world that took everything from her. When control became impossible, she built a fantasy where she could be judge, jury, savior. It destroyed her, and almost destroyed us. The investigation would continue for weeks, months. Indictments, interviews, headlines. But one truth remained. Grief, when weaponized, does not ruin one person's life. It builds a stage and drags everyone into the spotlight. The mountain felt different after that day. Quieter, as if the wind exhaled after holding its breath too long. The crowds vanished, cameras left, and all that remained was the faint echo of chaos in the trees. For the first time in weeks, I woke without hearing drones or reporters. No comments, no hashtags, no headlines. Just Tracy making coffee, sunlight through blinds, and a world remembering how to be still. The sheriff's office had Laura in custody. She was not handcuffed or dragged out. It was quiet, procedural, almost merciful. She did not resist. She looked empty. When Patterson told her the charges, she did not argue or blink. She asked one question: "Can I bring Emma's photo?" That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the marigolds she called non-compliant. Their petals curled in early frost, but they looked stronger than ever. Tracy touched my shoulder. "They are beautiful," she said. "They are survivors," I replied. She smiled faintly. "Kind of like us." I wanted to believe that, but survival was not healing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Laura's face when she realized the lie was over. That look, part fury, part heartbreak, was not something you could unsee. Beneath the madness was grief. And grief, in its purest form, does not vanish when you win. It lingers. The investigation unfolded slowly, like peeling paint off old wood. Luis fed me updates from the federal side. Laura created over a dozen fake documents, collected HOA dues from nearly 30 homes, siphoned money into a foundation under Emma's name, a foundation that did not exist. Some funds went to funeral charities, Luis said. It is messy. She mixed genuine grief work with fraud. That made it convincing. She believed it, I said. That is the terrifying part. By the second week, the DA's office had enough for prosecution. Impersonation of law enforcement, wire fraud, harassment, unlawful detention, defamation. But Patterson told me privately he was not pushing for a long sentence. She is broken, he said. She needs help more than prison. For the first time, I did not disagree. Tracy moved on faster than I did. She replanted the flower bed, repainted the fence, hosted a neighborhood get-together to thank those who stood by us. I could not join. Not yet. I spent nights rereading case files, as if clarity could make sense of madness. One evening, she came to the porch, wrapped in my old army jacket. "You cannot keep reliving it, Josh," she said gently. "I just keep thinking," I said, "how many times I faced real threats, people with guns, intent, and never felt this helpless." I nodded. Because this was not war, she said. It was grief dressed as war. Her words landed heavier than she meant. A few days later, I received a letter, handwritten, from Laura. 3 sentences. I saw the footage. You were right. I lost Emma, then myself. I thought rules would stop the world from taking anyone else. I am sorry I took your piece. There was no signature, just a pressed marigold taped to the page. Tracy cried when she read it. I did not. I sat, tracing the paper's edges, wondering if forgiveness had to be spoken to count. I did not know if I could forgive her, but I could not hate her anymore. Hate was just another leash. Laura pled guilty to reduced charges, fraud, impersonation, harassment, under an insanity clause recommended by her doctors. The court placed her in a psychiatric facility outside Denver. The headlines were merciful this time. No jokes, no memes, just a small article between politics and weather. Local woman sentenced in HOA fraud case. Family cites untreated grief. And the world moved on. But the mountain did not forget. People crossed the street when passing her old house. Her mailbox stayed empty, windows dark. Sometimes kids tossed rocks at her for sale sign, as if punishing a ghost. Tracy and I walked past quietly, hand in hand. It took months, but normal life stitched itself back together. The first winter snow came early. The marigolds withered, but Tracy planted winter pansies, bright purple, stubborn against the cold. One morning, we found an envelope at our door. No return address. Inside was a photo. Emma Thompson, smiling, beside a field of marigolds. On the back, she loved these flowers too. We did not know who sent it. Maybe a relative, maybe Laura through her doctors, but it felt right, like the mountain was letting go of what it held. By spring, the county demolished Laura's property. Fake HOA signs came down, boundary markers erased. What replaced it was not another house, it was quieter. A memorial garden. Funded by victims of her fraud, the county, and, though she did not know it, me. I donated anonymously under Project Emma. The plaque read, "Dedicated to those who lost their way in grief and those who found strength to forgive them." Tracy cried when she saw it. I did not stop her. Some tears are not for sadness, they are for release. The first time I visited the garden, it was early morning. Mist clung to the ground, marigold scent thick in the air. Someone left a wooden box near the plaque. Inside were handwritten notes from visitors, messages of loss, healing, forgiveness. One said, "My brother never came home from Afghanistan. I blamed everyone. I get it now." Another, "Grief does not end. It changes shape." I added one, "Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the last form of strength we learn." I left it under a marigold bloom, the color of sunrise. As I walked home, I thought about Laura, the version before madness, a mother, probably proud, kind, someone who baked cookies for bake sales, laughed loudly at barbecues, never thought she would be a headline. Life fractures like that. One tragedy, one moment, and the person you were ceases to exist. The world does not notice the death, it sees the debris. I thought my war ended overseas, but in a garden built from obsession and grief, I realized war has many forms. Some are fought with rifles, some with forgiveness. Months later, I received a postcard. No return address, just a Rockies sunrise photo and one line in neat handwriting. "The garden looks beautiful. Tell Tracy, thank you." No signature. But I knew who it was. Laura was alive. Healing, maybe. And that thought did not fill me with dread. Forgiveness, once given, does not belong to the guilty or innocent. It belongs to the living. And we were still here. Still breathing. Still planting. That summer, the garden became sacred for everyone. Veterans, widows, neighbors who once hated each other sat beneath marigolds. Kids ran between flowers, unaware of the history under their feet. Tracy and I volunteered every weekend, pruning, watering, talking to visitors. Some came for the view, others for the story. All left quieter than they arrived. People asked if I would return to federal service. I said no. I fought enough wars. Now, I wanted to protect peace. The day they unveiled the final plaque, the town came. Reporters stayed away. It was not newsworthy anymore. That was the point. The inscription read, "For every life rebuilt, every heart forgiven, every marigold that dares to bloom." Tracy squeezed my hand. "She would like this," she whispered. "She would," I said. So would Emma. As the sun dipped below the ridgeline, the garden glowed golden, hundreds of flowers swaying in the mountain wind. For the first time, I did not feel like a soldier, victim, or survivor. I felt human again. And sometimes, that is the greatest victory of all. There are mornings when the mountain hums before sunrise, a low, steady vibration, like the world remembering it was loud. That is when I walk to the garden, before the air warms, before the first car passes, before life performs again. The gravel crunches under my boots in the rhythm of my deployment days. But now no chaos waits at the path's end, no shouting, no flashing lights, just marigolds, rows shimmering in dawn's pale gold. Sometimes I count them, not because I need to, but because I can. Each bloom proves survival. The garden grew larger than expected. What started as a county memorial became something else. People come from everywhere. Veterans, families, those who lost someone and do not know where to go. No rules, no fees, no committees, just an open gate and a wooden bench under a maple tree. The sign says, "Leave what you need, take what you can carry." Some leave flowers, some leave letters. Some sit in silence, letting the wind finish their sentences. Silence, once feared, becomes holy. Tracy keeps a notebook under the bench. Visitors write like it is a confession book. One page reads, "I forgive my father." Another, "I am learning to breathe again." Between them, in careful handwriting, "Tell Emma I am proud." Tracy thinks it is Laura. I think so too. Neither of us wants to erase it. We close the notebook, let it stay, press between pages of others' healing. It belongs to them now. The county renamed the place last month, Emma's Rest Garden. They asked me to speak at the dedication ceremony. I said no at first. I did not want cameras again. Did not want to explain pain to people after photo ops. Tracy convinced me. "It is not about cameras," she said. "It is about closure." So I spoke. Not long, just a few sentences. This garden is not about forgiveness, justice, or redemption. It is about what happens when we stop fighting to listen. Sometimes, peace comes not from victory, but from understanding why the fight began. No one clapped. They stood quietly, heads bowed. That silence said everything applause could not. Luis came afterward, grinning. "Never thought I would see you giving speeches to mayors and pastors," he said. "Never thought I would be the subject of one," I told him. He laughed, then grew serious. "You did good, brother. You turned a nightmare into a refuge. That is rare." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe the mountain wanted its peace back." He nodded, looking across the flowers. Either way, it got it. For the first time since Afghanistan, since the HOA war, since every wound I thought I buried, I believed him. At home, life settled into a rhythm I did not think possible. We rebuilt the porch swing. Tracy painted it faded blue. Sometimes we sit with coffee, watching people walk to the garden. They wave. We wave back. No words needed. I did not show Tracy right away. I sat on the porch, watching light shift through trees, feeling the photo warm in my hand. Forgiveness does not happen once. It grows slowly, like roots under soil you thought was dead. When Tracy came out, I handed her the photo. She leaned her head against my shoulder, saying nothing. We sat until stars appeared, one by one, like witnesses to everything we survived. The seasons turn differently now. Spring feels like a memory continuing, not a beginning. Summer brings visitors, autumn reflection, winter quiet. I walk through the garden even when flowers die back. The scent lingers in the dirt, proof beauty outlasts bloom. A spot near the center, where soil dips, marks where my fence stood. I keep it unmarked. It reminds me boundaries can protect or imprison depending on who builds them. One evening, a storm rolled in from the west. Heavy clouds, silver rain cutting through sunset. I grabbed a tarp, ran to the garden to cover the bench notebook. By the time I reached it, I was drenched. The wind howled, ripping petals off marigolds, scattering them like confetti for ghosts. In the downpour, I laughed, not from joy, from relief. The storm did not scare me anymore. Chaos did not mean loss. It meant change. Tracy met me at the gate with an umbrella. "You are soaked," she said, laughing. "Storm caught me off guard." She looked at the garden, rain sparkling on every leaf. "Looks like it is blooming even in the storm." "Yeah," I said. "It always does." We stood under the umbrella, two silhouettes framed by lightning and memory, watching petals float downstream toward the valley. The mountain was alive, wild, loud, uncontained. That was what peace was supposed to sound like. Sometimes, at night, I dream of Emma's voice. Not the real one. I never knew it, but the echo Laura remembered. In dreams, she laughs, chasing her mother through fields of marigolds, the kind covering this mountain. When I wake, I almost hear them outside, the whisper of flowers against wind, forgiveness taking shape. I do not tell Tracy about those dreams. Some things are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be felt. Last week, the county offered to name a trail after me, Mitchell's Path. I declined. If people need to remember anything, let them remember Emma's garden. Let that be enough. It is not my story anymore. It belongs to everyone who fought a quiet war and put down their armor. As long as one marigold blooms, none of it was wasted. The sun climbs higher as I finish this walk. The garden glows like a living ember, gold and green, breathing under morning wind. I kneel near the plaque, trace the carved words. For every life rebuilt, every heart forgiven, every marigold that dares to bloom, then I whisper, to no one, maybe Laura, maybe Emma, maybe the mountain. Rest easy, we kept the promise. And as I leave, the wind stirs through marigolds one last time, soft, endless, a sound that feels like peace learned to stay.